have to mute the live or else it's going to sound very strange. So I'm sorry for the delay in that. Okay. So we are going. Okay, and then I'm going to mute that. All right. Okay, so we are now officially recording. So, all right. So I'm going to reduce the chat. Okay. Later. And I believe for most of you, Sushim has your contact information. You signed up that way, so we can also email you. Is that right, Sushim? Do you have everybody's email?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, because then we'll also send emails a couple days after the class, just sort of summing up what we talked about. So, okay, but it's another gray Chicago evening. And here we are. So in Zen, I like to tell the story about a turtle, a blind turtle, is swimming in the boundless expanse of the ocean. Think the Pacific Ocean. And the blind turtle is swimming and swimming and swimming, and somewhere else in that ocean is floating a piece of wood, log. And the log has a hole that's just big enough for the turtle to crawl through the hole and onto the log and rest. And in Zen, they like to say, what are the chances that that turtle in the ocean will chance upon that log, also floating in the ocean, and find the log and find the hole and climb up on the log and rest? And so the point of that story, Zen stories sometimes have points, but the point of that story is to really think about, again, in Buddhism, we believe in reincarnation. I can get into that later or not. But the fact that here we are, what are all of the things that had to happen in our lives for all of us to find ourselves, right, on our computers right here and right now in this virtual room, to have heard about meditation, to have seen our link or seen our advertisement somewhere. All of the decisions that we made, maybe we saw a flyer, or maybe we came to a service a while ago or found ourselves on the email list. Maybe you came to Open House Chicago and put your name in a book and found out about us. But I think at this particular moment, historically, with everything going on, we're extremely conscious, right, of all of those, more conscious than usual of all of those little decisions that have led us to where we are. And that's really what our life is made of these infinite series of small decisions and forks in the road and taking those roads. And so here we are all together. So usually at this point I ask people, it's maybe a little bit obvious, like I said, in our current circumstances, but I like to ask people, maybe not necessarily what brought you here to the class, but maybe what you've heard about meditation or what you've heard that meditation can do for people. So you can, I think most of you are muted. You can unmute and say something, or you can use the chat window. And if anybody wants to volunteer about either what brings you here or what you've heard that meditation can do, this is kind of the what are you hoping to get out of this class moment. So any volunteers?
I can go first. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. Hi, welcome.
Hi, I'm Robert. I think I'm mostly here. So I texted one of my friends that I was doing this tonight. She goes, oh my God, that's so hard, meditating and staying consistent about it. And I think that I would agree with that sentiment, and I'm here to make it not be hard.
Great. We'll do what we can. Sometimes it's super hard, even for us, but yeah, That's great. Yeah. Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Tim.
Hi, Tim.
And you can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Jeff, who's a member of the temple, and I've been toying with meditation classes, taking them, but never pulling the trigger. And so finally doing it, I don't. I'm in recovery and think that meditation is an important part of that, but have not been able to develop any regular habit. I mean, what meditation is very like there's no definition of it necessarily, and I think I do it a lot more than I realize that I do it. But I would like help in developing more of a consistent habit,
Okay.
however that looks,
Yeah. Fantastic.
because I know that when I slow down and I rest and I don't know, get in touch with different parts of myself that sweet that I'm more serene. I just know that, and I don't do it enough, or I don't know how to. One of the two.
There you go. And serenity. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. You actually raised a really great point, which is I like the idea. I've always thought, and I'll say a few words about myself in a minute and what brought me here, and Sushim can as well. Um, but I've come to really believe meditation is really almost an essential vitamin, that our brain needs it and loves it and latches onto it. And I like to say that people manage to get meditation. I call it self meditation, right? So there's what we're doing, which is a very distilled kind of pure form of meditation. But some people do jigsaw puzzles, and some people run marathons, and some people go for walks
Yeah,
in nature. And I think that's our brain trying to get that energy, um, in various ways that, it's the difference between taking a vitamin C pill and eating a lot of those tiny little oranges with nice peels. Yeah. Good. Anybody else? Anything that you've heard meditation can do for you, or anything you might hope that it can do for you? Can improve focus. I see that. Okay, Beth, thank you. Yeah. Anything else? Help you sleep, maybe?
I think it can lower your blood pressure.
Can lower your blood pressure. I'm here to tell you that can be true. Exactly. Yeah.
let's help you listen to yourself, like
Mm,
like know what you really want and what you're really feeling, because I don't know most of the time.
nice, nice. Become more self-aware, knowing yourself, knowing your mind, how you react to certain things. That's super valuable information.
Yeah,
Mm.
hi.
Hi.
Um, so I have been searching for more structure around meditation,
Mhm.
and this opportunity presented itself. So I wanted to give it a try and see if it might help me get into more of a regular practice. But one of the goals that I had was definitely, more self-awareness, grounding,
Great, great.
um, yeah, just connecting with oneself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Anybody else? One more?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Hi.
All right, good. Hi. I'm Lana Ray. So I am 5 years ago I got very, very sick. I had heavy metal poisoning. Didn't get a lot of help from Western medicine. Turned to a lot of holistic healing, which was amazing for me. And I'm getting my degree in holistic nutrition now. And so I just believe there's so many different holistic modalities to healing your body.
Mhm.
I just completed an amazing docu-series on radical remission for people who have spontaneously healed in a way from cancer and terminal illnesses. And meditation is such a huge part of that, because I do think wherever our mind goes, our body tends to go with it, for the good or for the bad. And so I really want to learn more about my own meditation practice, but also as I'm working with clients who are trying to heal, I think it's an incredible piece of that healing puzzle. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Thank all of you. Yeah. And thank you to those of you who didn't who may have obviously, yeah, you wouldn't have come here tonight if you weren't interested and didn't think that meditation can benefit you in some way. And so this is actually also where I give my Dixie Cup speech. I like to say, you know, we always, I do this all the time when I start a meditation retreat. I'll say, oh, you know, what I really want out of this retreat, I really want to be calm, or I really want to be happy, or I really want to get to this feeling, right? And so we all come to meditation with, even if we might know better, we come with expectations. We might have heard that it helps anxiety, or it helps blood pressure, or it helps us be more healthy, or more grounded, or more peaceful. So the very first instruction that I'll give you, the first explicit instruction, is to forget about all of that. Okay? Is to actually just leave it at the door. And the image that I like to use is, I don't know how many of you did this or remember this, but to see this class and what we're doing here is I'm giving you one of those seeds. I don't know if you did this in kindergarten, where you would have a seed in a Dixie cup. And you would put the seed in the Dixie cup with some soil and put it on your windowsill. I remember mine was in the kitchen windowsill, and water it a little bit of a day and see what the seeds becomes, right? And that's a really great way to think about to approach your meditation practice, actually, is with that same spirit of letting it just develop. So I like to say one of your assignments for the next week will be to meditate regularly, Monday through Friday, and try to get to meditating at the same time every day for just 5 or 10 minutes, Monday through Friday, and to have the regular practice, right? And that's a little bit like watering that Dixie cup, that seed in the Dixie cup, just a little bit every day. A lot of people, and I know this is the case, I've taught this class for some time, and you know, I was feeling kind of proud of myself. And I took a Tai Chi class, and I didn't practice. You're supposed to practice your Tai Chi every day. I did not, actually. I think I got to maybe 3 days a week at the very most. It's incredibly difficult, and I'm thrilled to hear that a lot of you are here because you want support to develop a regular practice, right? So we can promise each other that we'll do our very utmost, is Monday through Friday at the same time every day, the same place, maybe the same seat, as much as possible. I know these are really hectic times. People have a lot of things going on. You may have more time, you may have less time. You may have your time that's been completely reshuffled, but that this can give structure to your day and something to come back to. And to just do it a little bit every day, Monday through Friday. Otherwise, you know, that kind of, what happens is you get to Friday and you say, oh, I haven't done it all week. I'm going to just sit for an hour. So that's like taking a great big 2-gallon jug of water and dumping it on that poor little Dixie cup with a seed in it, and nothing's going to happen. So just giving it a little bit of sun and water every day, and watching. What I have found about meditation, what I can promise you, is that what you will see develop will almost certainly not be what you came here expecting, and to allow room for that. Meditation is a wonderful, exciting journey that since I've been doing it, it's opened doors. Like I like to say that I didn't even know that they were doors. And allow yourself to find yourself in surprising and unexpected spaces, right? It's possible with meditation to muscle it and to try to really have it be a certain way, especially because there's a lot of talking about meditation in society now. It's on the cover of all the magazines in Whole Foods. We all know a lot more about meditation even than when I started teaching this class, where not that many people did it. So we think we know what it is. So just to approach it with that spirit of open-heartedness, of curiosity, to just take care of it every day and just to see what it is. And so if you came here and you wanted a zucchini, right, that seed is almost probably going to be a rose. Or if you wanted corn, it'll be a daffodil. Actually, it won't be a daffodil because that's a bulb and you would have known that. But I think you see what I'm saying. So let's make that promise to just approach it with what we call in Buddhism, don't know mind, and let it just unfold. So how does that sound? All right. So, all right. So the next thing, so I'll explain a little bit about our temple and about who I am, and then Sushim can also chime in with who he is and why we're here. And so this class is offered through the auspices of the Zen Buddhist Temple Chicago. I don't know if many of you have ever been to the temple or if you're from Chicago, and this is the hard thing with this. Actually, if I do a gallery view, right, I can see more of you. Or not see you as it is, but so some of you might be from Chicago. How many of you, if you want to just raise your hand, the people I can see have been to our temple on Cornelia before? Okay, all right, so good to see people who have not. So our temple was founded, our founding teacher, Sama Sunim, who came to New York City from Korea in the 1960s. He was an orphan, and he wound up as a Buddhist because he was a very young orphan and he was in a city and he saw this beautiful building and saw that people had a place to sleep and eat. And so he just went there and became a great Buddhist teacher. So our temple is a Zen temple. It's Korean Zen. We'll be talking more about Zen as we go along. Let's see. And me personally, Buddhism kept trying to get my attention. So the very first apartment that I had in Chicago with my first husband was 3 doors down from the temple. It was 3444 North Paulina, so just a couple of houses down from the temple. I would walk by the temple almost every day and I would look at it and I'd say, oh, that's for hippies, or this was 1997. I never went in, and to my loss. And I actually did my graduate school in Ann Arbor, where we have another temple. So our order has temples in New York City, Chicago, Ann Arbor, Toronto, and Mexico City. Those are all temples that were founded originally by our founding teacher and now are run generally by resident priests. And so I had the temple. There was a temple in Ann Arbor that I never went near. There was a temple around the corner from me in Chicago that I never went in. Fast forward maybe 10 years later, and that marriage broke up and I was left with no furniture and a couple of cats. I kept lifting them off chairs. We competed for the 2 chairs that were in my apartment. And I seem to remember that this temple did meditation classes, and a very good friend of mine did meditation, was a Buddhist. And so I wanted an excuse to be in touch with him more often. And so I just went to the meditation class, and I would come every Tuesday. I would manage to get on my bike and bike down. It was really a low point in my life. And every week I wasn't sure if I would come back the next week. And after an hour and a half, I felt rejuvenated. I felt like I had taken a nap and I didn't think I had closed my eyes. And so I just kept doing it and kept coming. And so I'm here. I'll talk a little bit as we go along. I had horrible anxiety issues. I was very, very sick for a while. And meditation practice and all of this has just been an incredible gift, an incredible adventure. It surprises me every day. And especially in our current circumstances with everything going on, it's really been a wonderful resource. And I'm fortunate to have it, and I'm just delighted to see so many of you here to embark on this journey and this adventure together. So Sushim, do you want to talk a little bit about, Sushim is also a Dharma teacher at our temple.
And for me, it was really going back to maybe my early 20s that it was never really suggested that I do a meditation practice, but it would be mentioned in different contexts. I can even think of a Catholic priest or some book I'd read or some musician interview I read. or I took a photography workshop or something. And so I'd read a few books, but that always seemed to be limited. So I decided to take a class and get proper instruction. And that was maybe 15 years ago. And I just think the first place I contacted was the Zen Buddhist Temple, Chicago. And so I took the class, in 2005. And I've retaken it now several times. And I like to think of even teaching it. I've taught it or helped teach it, and that is retaking it. Because I always am reminded it further establishes a lot of the important parts of the curriculum, if you will. So yeah, and it's funny how just experiencing it again and again, it is a new thing every time. So it's great to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, any questions right now about the temple or about anything that we said, or questions for us?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Is there a certain style of meditation that you follow, or do you do a variety of them, or?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So there are very many styles of meditation. And again, I just love that question because it just shows how much how many inroads meditation has made, that people are aware that there are different kinds and this and that. So yes, there are very many different kinds. We'll be teaching you the kind that we use at our temple, which is concentration meditation. So we'll be teaching it under that. I'll get into a little bit in a couple of minutes. I'll get into what we call the 5 fingers of Zen, where you'll see the other things that we'll be teaching you as well. But for the meditation and for this class, like I said, it didn't used to be this way, but probably most of you, many of you, maybe not. I want to be careful saying this because previous experience is absolutely not a prerequisite for this class. But more and more people have some sort of meditation practice, or at least gotten to had a passing acquaintance or a handshake with meditation. So there are a lot of different methods out there. And we'll just ask you to give our method a try, and I'll get into the details of that. We'll sit again before the end of the class, and I'll go through sort of the checklist that we'll keep going through for the next, for tonight and the next 3 weeks, of the things to watch out for. So it is a very specific kind of meditation, and you're free to go back to another kind or try other kinds after the class is over, but we'll train you in that kind. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to then move on. So as you may know, so this is, again, a Buddhist meditation class. Buddhism will be the framework that we use for our meditation, and the stories will come from Zen, and the framing of the meditation will be Buddhist. But I just want to reassure everybody that this is mainly, it's first and foremost a meditation class. We're not trying to convert anybody or indoctrinate anybody. Again, the Buddhism is just the frame that we'll use for the meditation. And I'm happy to answer questions about Buddhism as well. But our focus will be meditation. But since it is Buddhism, so the Buddha was born over 2,600 years ago as a historical figure in India. And this was a time when there wasn't, if we can believe it, especially in this day and age, there wasn't the internet. And so much of Buddhism, when it was first articulated, took the form of lists, because lists are easy to remember. So during the course of this class, we're going to go through a bunch of different lists. It'll make it easier to remember, and I'll also recap those in the email messages that I'll send out. So I'm going to give you the first list, which, like I said, in the present circumstances, is something that I have a feeling Sushim has also come back to again and again. And our first list is what we call the 3 foundation stones. So the 3 foundation stones, our teacher in Ann Arbor likes to say, you know, when you build a monastery and you're building a new building, it's very important to make sure that the foundation is well laid, that the stones are all even, that you have nice solid foundations. So you can visualize the foundation stones that way. I also like to visualize them. I'm one of those people who picks up really smooth rocks or stones in places that I've been and puts them in the pocket. So you can reach into your pocket and kind of just feel these stones, which bring you back to the present moment. That's actually, if you see Buddhists running around with these bracelets, which are called mala beads, either around the neck or the wrist. These are also, you can just use them and play with them to bring yourself right back. Just this, just here, just now. So the 3 foundation stones, in some ways, are really the most important thing you might learn in this class. It's really the foundation of everything else that follows. And so I'll just recite them, and then we can talk a little bit more about them. But the first foundation stone is peace. Say, in this very moment, there's nothing to worry about. And the second foundation stone is contentment. In this very moment, there's nothing lacking. And the third foundation stone is gratitude. In this very moment, there's always something to be grateful for. So I'm wondering right now, just a little quick quiz to test your listening skills. Can anybody tell me what the first foundation stone is? Can anybody repeat that back? You can use the chat window as well, actually, if you want to. Peace, yes, I see there's a chat from Adam, yes. Peace, do you remember the sentence that goes with it?
In this very moment, there's nothing to worry about.
Wonderful, yes. In this very moment, there's nothing to worry about. Exactly, great. Does anybody remember the second one? Tim?
Contentment.
Uh-huh, anybody remember the sentence?
That there is nothing lacking.
Yeah, in this very moment, there's nothing lacking. Good. And the third one? Yeah, I see Beth and Lana both had the gratitude. Lana, yes, absolutely. Does anybody remember the sentence?
In this moment, there's something to be grateful for.
Exactly. Yeah, in this very moment, there's something to be grateful for. Very good. Yeah. So a couple of things about this is the first thing is what the most important words in those foundation stones are, actually. And so generally when we hear them, it's human nature, we focus on the part that changes, right? So we focus on, oh, you know, there's nothing lacking, there's nothing to worry about, there's always something to be grateful for, right? And so even when you repeated them back, right, you said, oh, in this moment, or, you know, right now, or whatever. And really the most important part of those 3 foundation stones, I've actually come to realize over the years, you know, that, yeah, you have all the fancy stuff that changes the substance, the place where we usually look. But actually those first words, in this very moment, can be considered to be the most important words in each of those foundation stones. And why do I say that? I say that because we all know, maybe now more than most times, That without that in this very moment, right? We all have those friends. Oh, there's nothing to worry about. You know, hey, you're lucky. There's nothing lacking, right? You have everything you need. And like a friend, wow, I'm really worried. Oh, but you know what? There's just something to be grateful for. In all those cases, right? It kind of makes you want to, say not nice things to the person, right? We all have that friend who's like, oh, don't worry about it. It's all going to be good. Oh, it's all there. Hey, you just have to be more grateful or more appreciative. And that's usually not somebody we want to hang out with. Whereas in this very moment, what I like to say, and like I said, I think we're more aware of this than we've ever been, is that in this very moment. And so sometimes you have to shave that very moment really super thin, right, to get to where there's nothing lacking and there's nothing to worry about and there's always something to be grateful for. It really requires you to really retract and really focus just right here, right now, just this. Everything is here. And like I said, the times we're living in, it's a real challenge to get there sometimes. But it's a reminder that if we really focus in, we really concentrate just this very moment, that often worry or lack, it can also happen with being hungry. Most of the time when I'm hungry not because I haven't had enough to eat, but because I'm worried about not having enough to eat later on, right? Or I'm tired. It's not necessarily that I'm tired, it's that I'm worried that I didn't get enough sleep last night, or I'm worried I won't get enough sleep later. And so I like to talk about these 5-day retreats that we do, which in the world of Buddhism is actually a fairly short retreat, but those are our long retreats, are 5 days. And you have moments where you're sitting on the mat and cushion and you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't stand it anymore. I'm hungry and I'm tired. And it's a reminder to just actually sort of say, awake, awake, awake. That if we stop with this anticipating, being afraid of what might come next, being worried about what came last night, if we just say, my eyes are open, my eyes are open, my eyes are open, right? That we can work with that there's fullness in this present moment. And the other thing that I'll say 2 more things about the foundation stones. One is you might have realized, I'll ask you guys the question, there's a word that is not present in all of those foundation stones, a very significant word that we tend to use all the time. Did anybody notice what it is?
Love.
Oh, love. That's a good one. Yeah, interesting. That love is a complicated thing in Buddhism. Yeah. It's everywhere, but yeah, we've done interesting things with it as humans. Yeah. That's not the one I was thinking of, but that's a good one. Anybody else? Might be the second most used word in the English language after the.
But
Oh, but yeah, that's a good, yeah. Which I like, because but is, again, that's that kind of searching forward or back. It's getting you out of this very moment. But that wasn't the one I was thinking of either. One more try. Anybody else? One more guess?
I.
Yes. Hey, there you go. Glitter falling from the ceiling. Yes, exactly. You win the ritual cookie. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I, me, my is not there. And that's on purpose, right? That I, me, my is a really powerful, it's like the planet Jupiter in the solar system. It has a huge gravitational pull. It pulls everything else off of its orbit. And part of what we do with meditation is to try to get enough liftoff or try to get enough force to escape that force field and to actually see when we take ourselves out of the equation, all sorts of things start to happen, all sorts of things spring to life. A little bit like now, if you've seen the pictures, I guess, of Venice, right, with all the social distancing, that there are dolphins and there are fish in the canals and there are dolphins frolicking in the port and swans. That when we pull ourselves back, when we become quiet and settled, all sorts of things feel the freedom to come. They're not afraid of us. So that's really a big, I was just reading a story about Seung San, who's the other big Korean Buddhist who made a mark in America. And there was a monk who asked him once, what's the shortcut to enlightenment? And he said, not for me. Not for me. So it's tricky. It's almost impossible, right, to not feel that gravitational pull. But this is one of the things that meditation can do, is give us a roadmap to try to get a little bit out of that I, me, my. So yeah, that's missing from the foundation stones. And it's a way of telling us, we think that I, me, my is the foundation. And no, you can go about your business. You can actually build a whole monastery on that foundation without ever using the word I. Very good. All right. So yeah, so those are the foundation stones. So I have another list with 5 things on it. Yeah, and I'm wondering, Sushim, do you want to do the 5 fingers of Zen? Do you want to?
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah, exactly. Because you're probably very tired of listening to me talk. So I can turn things over to Sushim.
Does anyone want to care maybe just to hazard a guess or take a stab at it, for lack of a better term, what the first finger of Zen might be? I'll give you a clue. It's what the word Zen actually means, which I didn't know for a while.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I can see. I should be able to see if people want it. Okay.
If you do the great.
I saw Jory try to answer.
No.
Okay.
No, I got lost in my phone.
Okay. So the first finger of Zen is meditation.
Oh,
First finger.
Yeah.
And that is what the word Zen means.
I didn't know that.
I'm just clearing my throat. I don't have a cough. The second finger of Zen is it's another practice that we do. We have in the Korean Zen tradition, but it's also prominent in certain Japanese traditions. Sound practice. So we'll be working the second or third class. So that's so meditation is the first finger. Second finger is chanting or sound practice. Third finger, this is something that in Korean Zen, it's quite prominent and more prominent than other traditions, but it also shows up in a lot of other, sometimes even Western religious traditions, just maybe not quite as prominent. It's prostrations, which I believe we're doing that on one of the later classes. So prostrations are a form of a full 5-pointed full body bow. And so that's the third finger. The fourth is one that you'll be able to practice anytime, any place, no matter what you're doing. Does anyone want to take a guess? So chanting, prostrations.
Breath, breathing, mindfulness.
We do breath work, but that's not one of the fingers.
Mindfulness.
Also an important aspect to what we're doing, but actually it's manual labor. So a lot of our this tradition and many other Buddhist traditions are big on that. I've read a book that I bought for $4 in Colorado, all about how to clean your house, and it was written by a Zen monk. And oftentimes in some monasteries, the oldest, most revered monk, this is one of the first things I learned when I learned about meditation, the most revered and oldest monks who live there, their job is to clean the toilet. Because, you know, we kind of sometimes get hierarchical and think this is low or high, better, worse. But really, I think it's important that not having a clean toilet would be. So that is reserved in some places for the most revered senior people. So that's the fourth finger.
Yeah, and I'm going to butt in just briefly. Can you guys think of other examples of manual labor? Because again, manual labor probably meant something very different 2,500 years ago. But we do all sorts of things. So Susha mentioned cleaning the house. Can you think of other examples?
Exercise.
Exercise. That's a good question. People have asked that. Is exercise and manual labor the same? And I think I've decided it kind of is, because it can be very meditative. It's not quite but yes. Any other?
Gardening, planting.
Yes. Gardening is a good season for that. Anybody else? You can use the chat window as well if you prefer.
Cooking?
Cooking, exactly. Cooking, yeah. And somebody's asking, why is manual labor one of them? Yeah, that's a really good question. So manual labor, once again, and we'll talk about this even more, is, you know, what we do on the cushion, what we do when we chant, what we do when we do prostrations, a really central foundation of our practice and of Zen, which is the Bodhisattva tradition, is that if our practice, and we'll talk about this later towards the end of the class, if our practice just stays on our cushion or in a Buddhist temple, it's sterile. It doesn't really go anywhere or do anything. And so it's really, manual labor is actually a really important way. When we're on retreats, we actually do 3 hours of work practice every afternoon of manual labor. So it's sewing and it's cooking. And I don't know if anybody, well, actually I do know because I've seen them. Some of you have pets, right? It's cleaning the litter boxes, and on cue, there's Maka. So it's cleaning litter boxes or picking up after your dog or brushing your pet, right? But all of those things are a way, making your bed is a really good example, right? Of manifesting your practice in the world and not having it just be something theoretical or something you do at 10 a.m. or 7 a.m. Monday through Friday. So we're kind of going in ascending order. And like I said, at retreats, we do 3 hours of work practice every afternoon. And one of the sayings is that work practice separates the sentient beings and the Buddhas. So you can sort of tell who's having a good retreat and their approach to work practice. If somebody's kind of like, oh, you know, and it happens like, oh my gosh, like, please, you know, if they're taking a break every half an hour, or if they're just kind of sighing, right? There's a nice way to sigh even in a silent retreat. You know, we all know that feeling, right? And so it's really a way of letting your practice infuse your life. I'm a teacher. I used to hate grading. I used to sigh and have a really bad attitude about grading and things like that. And since I've been doing this, it's actually like, oh, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to grade for an hour, and then I'm going to go do something else. So work practice, manual labor is just a really great way of bringing your practice into the world. And so we'll get to this in a minute, but one of the things that we're doing this week, in addition to meditating, is to pick one thing that you'll be doing all week as your work practice and do it mindfully Monday through Friday. So it could be making your bed, it could be vacuuming your house, it could be brushing your teeth, it could be cleaning the toilet. But to have it be consistent, always be the same thing, because that monkey mind is going to say, oh, I'm good at that. I'm bored. I'm going to make it cooking tomorrow. No, like, have it the same thing Monday through Friday and work with it and try to bring your full attention to it. I'm sorry, that was a very long parenthesis. I'm being incredibly rude. I'm going to kick it back to Sushin, who's going to, because you're all dying to know what the fifth finger of Zen is. Yes. So we have meditation, chanting, prostrations, work, manual labor, and
The final one is, well, it's sort of a two-parter. It's direct experience and one way for us to experience direct experience, we do ask. There are many thousands, maybe millions of volumes of books written about Zen practice and Buddhism, and we are asking you to please not read any of them during the duration of the course. Afterwards, we'll actually provide you with a handy reading list, but for now, and it's about the emphasis on direct experience over just the theoretical and things that you read in a book. And part of the reason I came to the temple to learn meditation was that I think I had found maybe a limitation of just what I could read, and what that was how that was helpful. And it's not a rejection of the idea of reading about this at all, but it's rather just we're shifting our emphasis. We're looking over here into direct experience. So when you're doing all the other 4 fingers of Zen, meditation, chanting, prostrations, and manual labor, that you are really truly concentrating on those things. And it isn't just in the theoretical, it's a truly mind-body experience.
Yeah. And to that end, as we go through the postures, because we'll introduce you to a lot of different possible meditation postures, which you may or may not be able to do with the setup that you have at home. But is to give them a try no matter what your setup is, right? And to just see, like, I could tell you all day long about how this posture feels, and you would sort of nod your head, but you don't know how it feels until you try it yourself. It might look super uncomfortable and actually work really well for you, or it might be the opposite. But this idea that you learn by doing, and so that's why we're all here. It's slightly frustrating that you're all sort of virtual, but that's direct experience as well. And to really get into the marrow of it and do it for yourself. Any questions about any of that? Again, you can use the chat panel or. All right, so on that note, so what we're going to do now for the next few minutes, so to go back to wherever you're meditating, and so you'll see for Sushim and I, well, for me with the mat and cushion, so I'll illustrate with the mat and cushion, and I'm not sure if you can totally see me. There we go. So what we do is we get up off of our mat and cushion. We take our 2 hands and push the cushion back into place. So if you're using pillows, this is a moment to get off of your pillow and to sort of fluff it back into shape, because it might be pretty flat. We've been sitting and talking for a while. And then if you have a meditation mat or a blanket, you'll want to smooth it out carefully and sort of smooth it back into shape. And then put it back down. With the cushions, we put them with the handle facing the back. And then we begin, we stand, and I'm realizing you can't see my head. So we stand in front of our mat and cushion. We put our hands in Hapchang. And we make a bow. And then we'll come back down to sit. And again, I'll adjust my. So whatever sitting works for you, if the kneeling posture works for you right now, or if it works to have your legs bent, we'll get into the precision. So you can turn your cushion or your pillow sideways and kneel on each side of it, or you can have your legs bent in front of you. And so here we'll get into a little bit more of the details of meditation and our method that we use at our temple. So we're going to have our eyes open and softly focused in front of you. We're going to make sure that your ears are over your shoulders. If you're using a mat or a blanket, you want to have about 2 hand widths between you and the front of your mat or your blanket. Again, whatever position you're in, you want to make sure your knees are touching the ground. If you're in a cross-legged position and one of your knees is high up, you want to put some pillows just to connect your knee down to the ground and make sure your hips are slightly raised. For the hands, so what you're going to do with your hands is we're going to take the left hand and put it in the right hand with your thumbs touching. And it's going to make a nice big circle. So you can imagine if one of these fabulous internet cats that keeps walking through the frame came into the room, that they could put their head right into that circle that your thumbs make. There's a nice strong circle. So one of the things that happens at a meditation retreat, one of the ways the teachers can tell if you're falling asleep or losing your concentration is the roof starts to fall in. So you want to make sure it's a nice strong circle. And you might also notice that that's right around where your tension area is. So it's really reinforcing that center of gravity for you. So your eyes are open and focused in front of you. Your hands are doing this. Your tongue is tucked behind your top front teeth. And let's see, what am I missing? And again, your ears are over your shoulders. And you're going to be counting your outgoing breath silently from 1 to 36. If you lose track, which is very possible if you're being honest with yourself, right? If you're like, oh, I got you 36, no problem. You might be cheating. Not deliberately, but it's very, very common. It's almost inevitable that we lose track. I remember somebody who'd been meditating for years and years and years who said she still has to get to number 5 without losing her concentration. So that's fine. The goal is not to get to 36. The goal is just to use the counting your breath to give you something to focus on and to really focus on your breath, on counting your outgoing breath. Again, your eyes are open. And we'll just do this. Let your breath just do what it wants. You don't need to breathe deeply into your tension area. Just let your breath be natural. And again, counting your outgoing breaths from 1 to 36. So I'll ring the bell and let's give that a try. Put our hands in Hapchon again with the left hand and the right hand coming to meet it. The thumbs overlapping, right thumb over the left thumb, and we make a bow. Right, so any questions? How was that? Any questions? Any feedback? Anything going into the week? So your homework for the coming week is once again to meditate Monday through Friday. Try to make it the same time, try to make it the same place. That'll make it easier to develop. And also your brain is like a homing pigeon, right? So it's going to learn to come home, to come to this place. When it sees the mat and cushion or approaches that time, it'll just start settling. It'll become something that's in your bones and sinews, as our teacher likes to say. And the other homework is to pick one manual labor practice, whether it's making your bed or folding your clothes or doing the dishes or cleaning your house that you'll do mindfully Monday through Friday. Our teacher in Ann Arbor likes to say, and she actually got this from a teacher who's out in Oregon, that the great way to do something mindfully is to do it with both hands. So really bringing your full concentration. I remember a friend of mine took the class with our teacher from Ann Arbor, and they said, wow, it's really hard to brush your teeth with two hands. But that's exactly the point. It makes you concentrate. Another method is to actually use your left hand or your right hand if you're left-handed. And to really, it will bring all of your concentration and attention to what you're doing. So much of what we do it with one hand while our mind is somewhere else, and we're eating and watching TV, or we're thinking about what we have to do. So really just the one thing, doing it Monday through Friday, and we'll all check in with that next week. And I'll also mention one more time, so we have your email addresses. You'll be getting an email from me in a couple of days. And again, this is our very first virtual meditation class. We're still working it out, so thanks for your patience. And we are offering it as a pay what you can. So you can go to our website, go to the Chicago page and click the donate button at the bottom of the page if you haven't already, and whatever you're able to give, we appreciate. And just leave us a note. It's a PayPal thing, so you can just leave us a note for that. So yeah, any questions or comments or?
Just one about, what did you say about the recording, and
Yeah.
what do you do? I missed
Absolutely,
that
right.
part.
So yeah, exactly. So this is over Zoom, and we have it set up so it's recording to YouTube. It's live streaming on YouTube actually. So what I will do once this is over is I'll stop the recording, but I will also go to YouTube and put it on private. But we can also give you that link so that if you want to go back and do the class or any information, you can do that. Or if you have to miss a class, right, then the class would be available on our channel. Yeah. Any other comments or?
I saw a chat question from Lana pop up and then it went away.
Lana, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, what should it look like? Oh, yes, right. So, and how long should you meditate for? Yes. Okay, so 2 questions. So don't make it too long, right? So we recommend really for this first week, 5 minutes is enough. 5 minutes or 10 minutes, not more than 10 minutes. Even if you're used to meditating longer, maybe shorten it back. It's also good to, if you have an established meditation practice, it's good to shake it up every so often. So our teachers like to tell us when we're on vacation or on hiatus for the temple, actually really take that break. So do it shorter, do it with this method with your eyes open, exactly what we did in that last setting. So your eyes are open and softly focused. You've got a posture where your hips are higher than your knees. It's the same time and place every day, ideally, Monday through Friday. And I'd say minimum 5 minutes, maximum 10 minutes, Monday through Friday. And you'll just be counting your outgoing breath silently from 1 to 36. That's all you need to do, but bringing your full, complete attention to that counting. And we'll refine that and get a little bit more in detail with that next week. But that's a good guide for the week to follow. Yeah, thanks. Any other questions? So questions do come up during the week. Like I said, we'll be emailing you in a couple of days. If you can actually, I know in this day and age, being on the internet is probably wearing us all down, but you'll get an email from us and it'll of course have our email addresses. So feel free to write to us if anything comes up, or even if you trip over an article or have a thought or something you'd like to share. We're always very open to that. And thank you, Lana. I see that. This was great. I think so too. It was really wonderful to meet all of you. And I'm realizing we usually go through and say our names. I can see some of you and not all of you. I'm still adjusting to this. Right. So if I don't even know how would we do that, Sushant, do you think?
Maybe if we just each, I don't know how we could do it in an orderly fashion. I do want to mention, I think I have everyone's email address, but if for some reason you haven't gotten an email from me so far, to just so we have your email on file, because some of you may have joined last minute, is to send an email, chicago@zenbuddhisttemple.org. And that way we'll have you on the class roster. And then when Noara sends out her emails, or if I send one out, when we know that you have you, I think just about everyone should have gotten one. But if you haven't so far heard from me, just email chicago@zenbuddhisttemple.org. That way we'll. But I don't know how to answer your question about how we can.
I know about the names. Well, what you can do, I mean, I think most of you are probably pros at Zoom at this point. If we roll over your pictures, we can actually see your names. So that's also good. And like I said, I can see some of you and all of you, and that's perfectly fine. But it's very nice to meet you. Most of you have your names. And I was going to say, is it TL Jackson? What's your first name?
It's Tracy.
Tracy. Okay, great. So I'm seeing Rebecca and Steve and Jungji, Laura and Tim and Robert and Jory and Bridget and Lana and Adam and Diego and Haley. So once again, it's wonderful to meet all of you. It's good to see you. We'll see you next week. Enjoy your practice again, Monday through Friday, minimum 5, maximum 10, and 1 work practice item that you try to bring your full attention to every day. Don't be too hard on yourself. Just do that little bit and just see what kind of effect that it has on your life in general. So have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Everybody stay safe and healthy. It's wonderful to see you. And yes, see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jundi.